All right, everybody, happy Friday. Today's the 21st of May, 2021. It's always an eventful week at Edwards Air Force Base at the center of the aerospace testing universe. This week is no exception. I'm confident that you have a lot of questions. You almost always do, and I really want those. We want those. You can text your questions in, as always, to 707-412-8922, right there. Right there. I'm not as good as a weatherman on a teleprompter. But anyway, I try. 707-412-8922 to text in your questions. We will also take your inputs, just without a question, to include your comments, positive or negative. If we can handle them in real time or on the air, we absolutely will. In the room with me today, I've got a special guest. I'll get to him in a second. Off screen right now, I have Chief Master Sergeant Dan Thompson standing in, running the questions for us, and my MSG helpline. And then over my shoulder, she's got her own camera, Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Westy, our FIO. Everybody say hi to Highlander, and if you'd like to, maybe you could ask the question of Highlander, what's the Highlander story? And if she doesn't tell you it, I certainly will. But there's a good opportunity there to answer any medical or medical-related questions that you have. So text in your questions, your comments, and other things like that, and we will love to get to them. I do have a couple push announcements that I have, and I'll reveal as we go through the broadcast here. But first, let me introduce our guest with us today. So if you can go back to the double shot, this is Senior Master Sergeant Holmes from the 412th Ops Support Squadron, and he probably didn't know this when he was nominated to be his squadron, then group. Senior NCO of the Year for 2020, but if he wins at the wing level, which he did, so congratulations. Everybody give him a virtual golf clap, right? Congratulations. It's huge, right?
Thank you, sir.
So not everybody gets to be a OTY at the wing level, and that's a huge accomplishment for you. But he didn't know when he got that award that he would subsequently be asked, I guess politely, to sit down with me and broadcast to you on a Friday. I talked to his CGO counterpart a couple weeks back, and I think it's time for us to get a little perspective out of you on Senior NCO and what is it like, and OSS and other things. So I asked her a couple questions. I'll ask you same basic ones. Okay. Literally, tell me a little bit about yourself and why the Air Force? When did you join the Air Force? What was the push?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, sir, I appreciate you for the invite. Appreciate the opportunity to sit here with you. I watch these all the time, so it's pretty cool to actually be on this side of it. I'm Senior Master Sergeant Brian Holmes. I was originally born in Arkansas. I joined the Air Force in November of 2002, so a little bit after 9/11. I joined because I just saw what the country was going through, and I wanted to help. I wanted to do my part. As cheesy as that may sound.
Doesn't sound cheesy at all, Chief.
So
Chief to be.
I appreciate that, sir.
Yeah. All right.
So that's my story. I've had a lot of great assignments, and this has been one of the greatest, believe it or not. I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here with you, sir. Edwards Air Force Base and the people here have made this assignment fantastic for me. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah, sounds awesome. So I didn't know where you grew up, but now that I know where you grew up, I have an airman that I work close aboard that is headed out to Little Rock. Okay. So if you would like to discuss with that airman a little bit about what life is like in Arkansas and Little Rock, I will absolutely send them your way. And I think there's a lot of greatness in that. So a lot of folks in our generation, I was actually on active duty for 9/11, but a lot of folks in our generation kind of doubled down or went, hey, there's goodness here, right? There's a larger purpose. Many of us knew that when we joined the service, but a lot of us, I'll say, recommitted to that throughout the years. You've probably heard this, and you may have even said it once or twice, but there are specific reasons why people join, and often there are very different but just as important reasons on why they chose to stay.
Absolutely.
And you're getting close. You're getting close to the half payday, brother.
Yes, sir.
That's an important day in every airman's life,
Absolutely.
right? When they tag the 20-year mark.
Yes, sir.
So give me a couple thoughts on what asked you to do the first reenlistment and the second reenlistment. What were the things that compelled you to stay?
So the first couple of enlistments, what compelled me to stay was family. You know, I had a young daughter, and I liked the security aspect of it. But the enlistments after that, it's been the people, to be honest with you. The airmen that I have the opportunity to work for, the leadership I have the opportunity to work for, peers that I have the opportunity to work with, that's what's kept me going this long. for sure.
Okay. Yeah. We don't stay into our third decade for necessarily monetary measures. There's got to be something else. It typically revolves, in my experience personally, but a lot of folks I talk to, being a part of something or somebody larger than yourself actually continues to grow for most of us throughout our service time. I had a couple folks that I was commissioned with that chose to separate at earlier opportunities, not necessarily first opportunity. Maybe a lot of your tech school classmates or your BMT classmates, they all did their first enlistment and sailed off. I have had more than one person contact me later in life and say, hey man, you made the right call. I wish I had stayed for reasons X, Y, and Z. And usually those right calls and staying are not about the pension that I am eligible for on the half payday.
Yes, sir.
It's usually other things, and so I suspect that's been your case as well.
Absolutely.
So expect those calls after you trip that that milestone.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not gonna read it out loud because you know it very well. But in reviewing your bio for this, I note that a lot of time in the Southeast.
Yes,
so Duke, Hurlburt, Eglin area for a little bit, little time at Barksdale,
Yes,
and then a couple other assignments. So how was the Coon?
I was just telling the colonel that's one of my best assignments as well. I was in Coontown from 2014, 2015, Wolfpack, and I had never been to Korea before, so it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I loved it that it was a smaller community, a smaller tight-knit type feel, and I love that. I love going to the hooches. I love just the camaraderie of Korea, and I'll be heading back to Korea in the next couple of months, this time Osan. So.
Okay. Yeah, so my first operational assignment was at Osan.
Okay.
I met my spouse there.
Okay.
And the thing that I enjoyed about being in a unit on the Rock was it was like the focus of mission. Like the entirety of the organization was dedicated to a single mission.
Absolutely.
And that was really, it was good there, but I didn't realize how good until I saw other places. You saw it a little later in career.
Yes,
So.
sir.
I will say congrats going back and getting back there.
Thank you.
My wife has been stationed there twice, and I visited a lot the second time too.
I'm very excited.
It's pretty darn cool.
Yes, it is.
You know who the next 7th Air Force Command Chief is, right?
I do not.
Chief Master Sergeant Dyer. He's currently the 96th Command Chief.
Okay.
So you're going to have another T&E Enterprise alum on the base with you.
Okay, that's awesome.
He is a good dude, and he promised to do shopping out in Songtong for the Higer family.
Okay.
So maybe he'll enlist you a little bit too to do some shopping
Absolutely.
for us out there.
Absolutely, sir.
So that's I'm excited, and I'm excited for you. I think there's a lot of upward mobility and upward potential you still have left, and thanks for giving. Thanks for being a part of the
Thank
team.
you, sir. I appreciate that.
So I'll give you one more question, and then we'll flip the table real fast.
Okay.
The question is for those of that's actually not true. I was in an OSS. Actually, I wasn't in the OSS, but I was assigned in the OG staff.
Okay.
But I've never been a part of an OSS as a squadron, though I've worked around it my whole career.
Okay.
So I have a pretty good understanding of what ops support squadrons are. But for those that don't or don't even understand what the concept of that OSS is, if you could describe a little bit about this diverse group of airmen that have many mission areas.
Absolutely.
That kind of are the backbone of any airfield.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
You just called it, sir. It's probably one of, if not the most diverse squadron in the ops group for sure.
Absolutely.
We have professionals who do weather, who do aircrew flight equipment, which is my background. For those who are not familiar with that, the aircrew flight equipment technicians take care of the aircrew's gear, the life-saving gear from oxygen masks, parachutes, helmets, and so on and so forth. We have airfield managers who run the airfield, who open up the airfield, who inspect the airfield and maintain the airfield. We have tower, we have scheduling, we have aviation resource management who handles all of the paperwork that goes into putting aircrew in the air. They manage all of that. It's very diverse, like I said, sir, and we are, in my opinion, the heart of the operations group for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely a statement on the most diverse squadron in any operations group is the OSS, absolutely. One of the interesting things that a lot of people don't realize about OSSs is that there are installations across our Air Force where they don't even have an operations group in the host wing, and the Air Base Wing owns the Ops Support Squadron. So they literally are the only operators in some of those cases in the entirety of a wing. And the example that I have the most interaction with was I think it's the 42nd, but it's the Air Base Wing at Maxwell, right? And so coordinating a lot with their OSS and their wing commander when I was at Eglin was something that really opened my eyes
Yes,
to
sir.
you can go a lot of different places
Yes, sir.
as an OSSer, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Now they don't have all of the same functions that your OSS does, but still pretty neat squadron. And I think another example of an underappreciated broadly support and service-based squadron. So I promised you before we got on camera, and I just promised you on camera.
Okay.
You had a little bit of time to think about it.
Okay.
Hit me, senior. I mean,
Okay.
don't hit me. You're gonna hurt me if you hit me. But what you got?
Before I ask, I have to shout out the Screaming Eagles of the 412th Operations Support Squadron. I love y'all. They'll get me if I didn't say that. So,
He's proudly displaying the patch, right?
what is your leadership philosophy? If somebody had to ask you what your leadership philosophy is, what would you say that was, sir?
What is my leadership philosophy? There are many ways, probably dozens of ways that I can answer that question. I will tell you at a very high level in a good summary. Our service, senior, believes that leadership can be taught, and I'm a product of that. I was very much in high school. I'm very much a geek first. I was certainly not an athlete. And although I do enjoy running, but you don't have to have a whole lot of skill to run. I learn a lot about leading and learning about how to learn while I'm in college, and get on active duty, and then continue to upgrade my leadership skills. And I look back after 20 plus, for me, years of leadership training, and the things that I've picked up or tools that I've been given or found and I've dropped in my leadership toolbox, right? That the ones that were already there or the ones I was comfortable with are the ones I go to when I'm in an uncomfortable or a challenging scenario, and we could come up with a lot of challenging scenarios. But my toolbox is a little bigger now than it was when I was a second lieutenant. It wasn't empty then, but it still has a lot more room today for me to pull more leadership styles and leadership tools and put it in there. So the philosophical answer behind your question and the analogy to a consolidated toolkit is, by definition, the Air Force believes that every airman, civilian and active duty, has leadership potential and has basic leadership skills. So let's give you opportunities to learn a new tool and become proficient at that new tool, and then put it in your toolkit. And then the leadership essence becomes, which one of those tools do you pull out, and in what leadership scenario do you pull it out? Okay. Does that make sense?
That's perfect.
And that sounds relatively straightforward, but I can't be the same leader that I was, or that I'll say was, leading a 4-ship of F-16s in the mission brief, that I have to be a different leadership style. I have to be true to myself, but a different leadership style in that scenario than I am or when I'm talking to a class at ALS, and especially when I'm talking to F-TACers. So that's probably one of the big components. But I truly believe it can be taught. I am actually a testament to that. And so if it's natural for you, consider yourself blessed. But you can also grow in your leadership style. If it's not natural for you, that's okay. You got some there, or you wouldn't be here. Right. And just grow the tools as the opportunities are provided for you. Okay. And then the last part of that philosophy really goes down to, if there's a tool that's never going to work for you, and you know that, don't try it, right? If you can never be the mad angry colonel, then don't try to be the mad angry colonel, or the aggressive in your face chief. Well, then don't be the aggressive in your face chief. If you can never pull that off, then don't try. Okay. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's
I appreciate that.
That's about it. So all right. Any other parting shots? Any other shout outs?
No, again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Like I said, I watch these all the time, so it's pretty cool to be sitting here with you and actually being a part of one. So.
Yeah, it is. We're glad you're here. Literally here with us on this Friday, but we're glad you're on this team.
Thank you, sir.
Takata 2 is going to miss you when you go east. The good news is we'll have another shopper at Osan for us.
Sir.
So pretty cool. All right,
yes,
thanks.
All right.
So while they're changing seats out, Chief and Senior, couple announcements that I want to hit on. Team, if you could pull up one of those two, that'd be great. If not, I'll certainly talk to it. But this is you can drop the banner there at the bottom for me. This is really, really, really good news. It is also testament to the partnering that we have in the form of our mission partner, AAFES here on Edwards Air Force Base. When we asked, or frankly when I asked the AAFES leadership, hey, I want the Express to expand service, they heard us. I asked for, candidly, I asked for a little bit more than this. Chief Thompson was in the room when I did that. Go back to the chart, please. But these are what they could get to and what they could grab exactly today. So the AAFES hours at the exchange are, they close now at 10:30. 7 days a week, they close at 10:30, effective tomorrow. So it's effective Saturday, the 22nd of May, close at 10:30. 7 days a week. Their opening hours are a little bit different, weekday versus weekend, but their closing hours are consistent. The important thing I want to foot stomp to the team here is that AAFES heard us. When they said, well, we're going to try this out, or we're considering testing, I said, don't do that, right? Make the change and hold to the change and be constant. So these are not temporary change. These are not temporary. How will we make them stick? And how will we collectively expand them even more? Folks, we'll use it, right? Yes. So go. Please go. If you are thinking about at 10:10 or 10:20 at night, I got a little hankering for something, go get whatever it is you are interested in at the exchange. It's not at the exchange, at the shopette, at the Class 6, at the Express. Go use those expanded hours. And that is how we, A, cement those hours, right, and B, drive home the argument that I think is still very valid, that the hours still have room to expand even more. So I will do that. I know Chief Thompson will do that. And if you help us do that, that's the best way that we can all get better hours and hold those hours at the Express. So thank you, AAFES. I think this is a good day and a good announcement for the team, especially those of us that reside at 93523 on Edwards Air Force Base. So that's the first announcement I have here. Another one, if you could go to that picture of, I think it's Ford Field. Folks, if you want to be proud of a bunch of airmen, this is another. I'm tingling thinking how awesome it is what this team of airmen did in Detroit. That's Ford Field in Detroit. They had a max vax clinic there, and the number I recall being something like 250,000 people.
Yeah, a lot. Something
like that. Michelle's saying, it's 240, 250. Hundreds of thousands of people that team of airmen helped inoculate. And that was, fighting in the combat lane against the virus, but on our own turf and in our own country. That is not just airmen from Edwards Air Force Base. We did have part of that team from Edwards there. It was across the entirety of the Air Force, and that's a formation that they were in, and a picture they took right before they broke that and sent everybody back to their home stations. But a great example of how your airmen, our airmen, don't just support their wingmen locally, but they support their wingmen, their families, their neighbors that they don't even know across the nation. And what a great story. The airmen that did deploy from Edwards Air Force Base to that task force, they are back here locally. They're in their R&R. And if you know any of those folks, when you see them back in the work center or you happen to be their neighbors, thank them again. What a great example of what they did for us. And they're also, frontline warriors in this combat front against COVID. So super proud of them, super excited. Welcome back, team. I know your units here desperately want you back. Enjoy your R&R, but be ready to charge as soon as you get back to duty. So 2 big pushes there. With that, Chief, anything you want to add on that we've covered so far?
No, there was a couple things we talked about we probably want to address. One being the Corvius pool.
Absolutely. So go ahead. I'll let you hit it.
I don't. You told me to remind you, sir. I don't have that one.
So
I'll talk about RVs though.
Don't let me forget, right? No. So another good, hey, it's opening thing. I was told as I was walking over to the town hall that the Corvius pool, for those of you that reside at 93523, will be open tomorrow for the season. I think that's a great example. They haven't been open for more than a year, and they're opening before Memorial Day weekend this year. As you recall, those of you who've been here a few years, the pool is now heated. It has been for a few years, but it should be a great place to go splash and enjoy. Take your families. Remember that there are capacity limits there, but there may be additional COVID-driven capacity limits, but they won't be as restrictive as some of us have experienced at other public pools a year ago during the pandemic. But the fact that it's open and the fact that we are getting back to this new normal or trending to this new normal in our own neighborhood, I think is a very exciting opportunity. And again, just like we talked about for the mission partner that is AAFES, the mission partner here that is Corvius, thank you very much to Stuart Campbell and his entire Corvius team here in looking out for us and working with us to get back to the amenities and the things that our families, and frankly, we need as we reside on the installation. So awesomeness there. So that was the reminder. Thanks, Chief. Any others?
I have one actually, guys. So we had one of our officers write in. So your defenders are taking care of you and say, hey, please remind everybody, as of 1 June, the RVs and the campers got to be off the roadsides and out of the parking lot, out of driveways, out from beside the houses. They need to be gone as of 1 June and put in proper storage, if not being expressly used for COVID purposes, and I believe approved by you.
Yes. So a little bit of history here is important. I encourage everyone that lives on the installation, if you haven't read your lease in a while, because I know y'all read it before you signed it, right? Right. Everybody's the son of a lawyer like I am, and they read everything before they sign it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. So, if you read it, if you go back and dig through that lease, and if you've lost it, that's okay. Corvius has one that you can get to and look at again. There is a clause in your lease, my lease, Chief's lease, that says you can only have things like recreational vehicles, trailers, motorcycle trailers, boats, boat trailers. You can only have those on your driveway or out in front of your house for so many days at a time. Right. And the assumption is there that you're going to go out and do something for the weekend, so you pull your boat or your RV or your motorcycle trailer out of the FSS outdoor rec storage lot, and then you prep it for the trip. You go off, you have a good time, you come back, you de-prep it, and then you put it back in storage. So it is completely allowable that thing, a trailer, an RV, a boat, be at or near your house on base, but not in an enduring or indefinite thing. And the lease clearly talks about that. So in 2020, when we got smashed with COVID, everybody asked, not everybody, a lot of people asked, hey, I've got an RV. Can I have that as my isolation facility at my house? Right. Or can we use that as our quarantine facility in the house? And I said, yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea for us to offset the need for hotel rooms or dividing houses or, frankly, holding more risk inside the household if one person had gotten COVID. Corvius was gracious enough to allow my request to be granted. And when we moved from HBCon Bravo to HBCon Alpha, I told them that they could rescind that on their own timeline back to what the normal lease was. And Stuart and his team came up with a 1 June transition timeline, and they've been advertising that. They intentionally, I think wisely, chose a time after Memorial Day weekend. So if you want to go do something over the long 4-day weekend in your RV, go do it. When you come back, just put it away like you would have done pre-pandemic. Right. And that's the place we are. Now, to what Chief Thompson talked about, if you are unlucky enough or unfortunate enough to have COVID hit your house, hopefully it's just a quarantine and not an isolation. There are case-by-case examples available that you can work directly with Corvius to allow you to have that back if you need it. If that doesn't work, Christina Roach, our housing advocate, can jump in on your behalf. Your squadron commander, your squadron director, your first sergeant, anybody like that can jump in on your behalf if you find yourself in that scenario where you need that additional bedroom in the form of an RV for an isolation or a quarantine or a COVID-related event. And that's all in place, and I'm confident the team will work with you. If there are other exceptions to that lease policy that you like to do, you'll have to or need to work directly with Christina Roach and Corvius for those. So I think that answers the question and addresses potentially some of the concern, but I'm happy to answer any questions we have on that as well.
It does, sir. I would just tack on at the end of that, just so folks are knowing, they're aware, there is a process. At first, you'll get a citation. If it's there after 1 June, you'll get a citation that says, hey, you're not supposed to be here. Second's going to be an abandoned vehicle notice within the next 24 hours. And on the third day, they'll tow it by the defenders. So it is a short timeline. You don't have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to that. So you have 3 days to include 1 June. I'd start moving. But that's good. That's
a good call out from the defenders, who really don't want to do any more of that work than they don't want to do any of that work.
No, sir.
But if they need to, they will. I guess
they're like being the servants and help us protect and serve more so than enforce. They prefer not to do that part. If they
understand.
Can help it. Yes,
all right.
Sir.
Any questions rung in yet? And if not, I know Colonel Westy has a lot that she wants to talk to us.
Okay, so this is a good one, and it'll probably dovetail over into some of the things she's talking about. It says, will the same consideration for taking off the mask be given to those who have had antibodies from recovering from COVID? CDC says some vaccines are 95% effective, and the antibodies has a 90% effective rate. Would like to know if the same considerations will be given. So basically, if I've caught COVID before, do those antibodies count as vaccines, and will we consider the same type of measurements for both scenarios?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll let Highlander, the expert, hit that before I try to be a Monday morning or barracks lawyer. So,
yeah.
Highlander?
So the answer is really no. The guidance from the CDC for being able to kind of resume some of the activities that we had pre-pandemic, so removing, not having to wear the mask and things like that, is really for fully vaccinated individuals, and that truly is what that guidance is for. The recommendation from the CDC is that you still need to get vaccinated against COVID, even if you've had COVID infection. And the reason for that is because there's really not a good way to know the long-lasting immunity from a natural infection, but they do know they have more. It's having the COVID vaccine is kind of more of a standardized antibody response that is developed, and we are able to get more information about that long-lasting immunity from the vaccination. So really, that's the bottom line answer, is that the antibody production that you might have gotten from a natural infection is not the same as you would get from the vaccine. The vaccine also produces an antibody response that would help you in case of the variants that may be coming through. So it really protects you against the variants, which is may be different from if you had gotten the natural infection from the original strain. You may really not be protective against the strains that are coming through right now. And so we do have more research and more data about the vaccine being very protective against the predominant strain right now, which is the B117 or the UK variant. And really the push is that even if you've had COVID, you should still get fully vaccinated. And the guidance is really fully vaccinated can resume some of those activities and have that more protective factor. In general.
Thanks, Highlander. Yeah, so there was a one-word answer, but the logic behind the one-word answer is really I think the super value there. There are benefits if you read through CDC guidance and you talk to public health experts. If you have had COVID and recovered within a certain time window, that may benefit you if you are subsequently a close contact, but they are not usable or allowable for anything that is get rid of my mask and I can act as though I was vaccinated. So it's a good question. I encourage all of you that have nuanced questions like that and applicability of the guidance that dropped from the CDC and then the president and then the DepSecDef last week. If you have anything resembling that and how it's implementing feedback or questions, this is your chance to ask, and we want those questions. So keep them rolling. Chief, you got any more on that line or anything else?
We do, actually, and I'm going to try to say this the right way because I think it was written correctly and to the point of it. Do we think that we will be creating a double standard for civilians and military with consideration of mask wear? The guidance is clear that we cannot ask somebody if they've been vaccinated or not. But for the military, we know we can find out if someone's not vaccinated and not wearing a mask, depending on your command level and what access you have. How can I hold the military accountable, but not the civilians?
Yeah, so
that's a hard. I've been asked that a couple times. I'm like,
well, there's multiple things there. So, first of all, let me pitch to the medical expert in the room with us right now. So, Highlander, as a provider, you get a lot more access into medical records because you are trained and you're proficient in protecting PHI because HIPAA requires it. So pretend you're not the medical provider, but you're also just a normal 05 squadron commander. What information do you have visibility to directly about your active duty subordinates as a generic squadron commander?
Yeah, I would not have that information, sir. I would not be able to access somebody's record to see if they've gotten the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, so my understanding is, so ASIMS is the system that we use to track active duty, all kinds of things, but vaccinations are one of those.
Right.
If I am a unit commander, as a unit commander, I can see the percentages of my force that have certain things, and I can filter it that way, but I don't get a by name, by person, by shot, by treatment access. That remains within healthcare channels. And so there'll be, what percentage of your active duty force has what type of vaccine. But that's it. That's all we'd be able to get. So that's a little bit of background behind the question. And then the other part of it let me talk about the don't ask part. There are two groups of people that are really worthy of our protection that will wear a mask, frankly, for quite a while. The first group of people that will continue to wear a mask for quite a while are those that can't be vaccinated. So there are some folks that, for whatever medical reason, and Highlander could give you a couple of those examples, are ineligible to receive any of our COVID vaccinations. And we need to continue to show solidarity and protect them. The second group of folks are those that, because the vaccine remains, and make sure I say this right this time, completely voluntary, and it will be so for all of us until at least FDA full authorization and approval. And then after that, it would require other decision authorities to make it mandatory. So, for example, after it's FDA approved, then it might become mandatory for active duty folks. Then it might become condition of employment for civilians based on where you work. But those decisions will be subsequent or subordinate to the FDA approval. Until that point, it is completely voluntary. And so there will be a significant number of folks that have extremely strong integrity, and they continue to wear a mask, and they're choosing not to be vaccinated. And they're choosing so from a position of knowledge. So the folks that can't, and the folks that have a bunch of knowledge and are choosing to not be vaccinated are the ones that will be wearing masks for quite a while. Some of them indefinitely, and others for quite a while. That's literally, I'm not exaggerating, that is literally why I'm wearing my mask here today. And why you will see me often, even though I am volunteering to you that I'm fully vaccinated, eligible to take my mask off inside as of last week. But I want to make sure that the folks that can't get vaccinated and those that are choosing not to get vaccinated know that I have their back too. In some cases, I make slightly different decisions, but that's okay. Those are their decisions. They're their lives. They're their bodies. They're their medical. And they can talk to their medical providers about what risks and what gain they have to either getting or not getting a vaccine. So I'm going to wear a mask in solidarity with them because I don't want this, nor do any of us, want this to turn into a scarlet letter or an ostracization. I can't say that word. Anyway, I hope you know what I mean. Scenario. So there's a third camp of folks that haven't been vaccinated, and those are the ones that kind of haven't made a choice to just kind of floating through this. That's the camp that I really hope you take some time to learn a little bit or just go get your vaccinations. There's a lot of benefit for you. But if you're in the don't know space, get out of the don't know space. Go get your vaccine or decide not to. And then wait for the FDA authorization and approval and find out if it's required for you for either your status, like Chief and I and Colonel Westy, or your job, but like, for example, for hypothetically medical providers that are civilians. So that would probably be a camp that I would expect to be a condition of employment. Now to I think that addresses some of the disparity behind the question on
Yes, sir.
I can't ask, but I have access to military records, but I really don't. And civilians that I don't have access to the military records and I can't ask anyway. One of the things that's really important for me to broadcast, and I have said it multiple times already, because we have the authorization, if we're fully vaccinated, to take our masks off on inside, outside, with a few exceptions, and I'll let Highlander hit on those exceptions here in a second. You are making a statement that you are vaccinated if your mask is off. Please don't make that statement lightly. And please, please don't feel peer pressure to remove your mask, whether you're vaccinated, even if you're vaccinated, right? So certainly don't remove it if you're not vaccinated based on peer pressure. But even if you are vaccinated and you want to leave your mask on to show solidarity like I do with those that can't, there's a lot of good messaging in that, and I appreciate that. So those are my thoughts on that specific question. Highlander, one of the things that I'll ask you the question here. The CDC guidance, Dr. Michelle, right? Michelle Walensky, I think is her first name. Mm-hmm. Yes, when she made her announcement, I encourage everybody to go to YouTube and listen to her announcement. It was a congratulatory message for those that have been fully vaccinated. And because of that, if you're fully vaccinated, you may remove your mask. except in these scenarios. And so, Highlander, if you could hit on a couple of those exceptions that we still have to wear our masks in, even those of us that are fully vaccinated.
So one of the exceptions is if you're going to be on public transportation. So if you're going to be traveling on an airplane, going on the bus, trains, you still are required to wear that mask, or it's still mandatory, or you still need to wear the mask if you're going to be in public transportation. The other place is in healthcare facilities. So like our military treatment facility, you will be expected to wear a mask when you enter into the facility, either at the main campus or the annex. So those are and other places, such as if you're going to a convalescent home, nursing home situation, or if you're going to go into any kind of the correction facilities. So those are some situations where you would have to make sure you're wearing a mask. And really, like General Higer said, the impact is wearing that. It's still even though you're fully vaccinated, it is still something to think about to continue wearing that mask if you're going to be around a lot of public places. So I would highly encourage, even though you can possibly take the mask off, that you probably should still wear that mask if you're going to be going to the grocery store or stores around the place, or going to public areas, or going to a lot of crowded places. And really, some of it is to show kind of that solidarity, but it really is to protect the people that can't get the vaccine or haven't gotten the vaccine either. Just because you're fully vaccinated, it doesn't mean that there's absolutely no chance you could get COVID. And so that really is still a little bit of a concern, especially when a lot of the population hasn't been vaccinated yet. So there is still that very slight possibility, and you really wouldn't want to get somebody sick that maybe is immunocompromised. There's a lot of people who are fully vaccinated, but their immune system didn't mount a really good response because they're immunocompromised, and so they are still a little bit at risk of getting COVID. And so those are some of the concerns, to just be considerate to other people, and continue to wear the mask if you really don't know their vaccination status or their medical condition status. And that really is kind of the right thing to do for others, as well as to sort of protect yourself a little bit as well. There are still a lot of people who are not vaccinated. The majority of people are not vaccinated yet in our community, and the mask can protect you a little bit as well. So it's just something to consider, to just make again that individual risk assessment for your safety as well for the safety of others.
I appreciate that, Highlander. I'll answer one question right now if it hasn't rung in yet. I'm fully vaccinated, therefore I can leave my mask at home, right? No. Right? If you are on Edwards Air Force Base or on Air Force Plant 42, even if you are fully vaccinated, the mandate, which is mine, is that you still have a mask with you. And that is an important caveat until conditions permit me to work with folks like Lieutenant Colonel Westy and decide to move us to HPCon 0. So that when we are not under an increased health protection condition, at that point, even if you're fully vaccinated, you can leave your mask home. But I think it's important to have one on you or with you. If you're in a place that has one mandatory, usually they'll have them available at the door, but you are required to have one with you on the installations, and it's probably a good habit to have one with you for the foreseeable time anyway. Let me talk another quick question here, and we can get into we can go deep dive if you want, right? I got a superstar expert medical biologic warrior with me in the room right now, so let's go if you have some deep questions. But one of the items that has surfaced in a couple conversations I've been involved in the last 10 days or so is that cloth masks actually aren't, full protection for you getting the virus. And so if you are someone that needs to be in a work environment around other people, how do you gain additional protection? Or if you have concerns about that, what should you do? First of all, you're wearing a mask, even a cloth mask, is better than wearing nothing. And I think the data show that pretty aggressively. Making sure you don't touch your mask unless you have to, washing your hands often, and that helps a lot. If you choose to wear something like an N95 mask and you procure it on your own, that's even better. Make sure that it's fitted. And if you wonder how to fit it or is this fit right or not, public health can help you with that. So if you find yourself in that boat and you've self-procured those N95 masks, they can help you with that. If you haven't self-procured an N95 mask and you are in a position medically where you think you need some accommodation to protect you, talk to your supervisor, talk to the civilian personnel office, and we can march down very deliberately a path that mitigates risk medically to you in the form of a reasonable accommodation such that you can continue to be in the workplace, contribute to our wonderful mission here at Edwards Air Force Base, and you can continue to be a part of the team in person. And I think there's big value in that, and do so in a deliberate manner. And I encourage you to do that. And a lot of folks like that will need to continue in a medically based reasonable accommodation status. I think it definitely, because I don't think COVID is going away for my lifetime, frankly. I think it's with us. Mm-hmm. And even at HPCon 0, you may still want to do some type of additional protection for yourself, even when all the rest of us are back to or arrived at what the new normal is. So there's a couple different things on notification, mask wearing, et cetera, et cetera. So
we're still getting some good ones coming in.
Awesome,
So
Chief.
and these are good points of clarification that if you watch the news enough, but not enough, it changes so frequently that we need current data being put out by us. And one is the COVID vaccine still considered experimental today?
So no. I'll answer that one.
She couldn't wait to answer that. She could not wait to answer that.
I've read so much stuff online and social media where it keeps saying experimental. The vaccine is not experimental. Just like, I mean, everything is experimental if you really think about it. What we do here on as a test mission, that's experimental, right? We're testing things and seeing if it's working or not. So there's a lot, it's so experimental makes the way sometimes people write it is makes it sound like it's kind of bad, and it's this big old experiment that someone's playing around with, we're playing around with fire or something like that. It really isn't. The vaccine has gone through every single stage in the FDA approved process. Every single step was completely done, just like any other product that the FDA approves. It went through every single step. So it is not experimental in that way. It literally went through multiple studies, multiple clinical trials. It had all the research and development that honestly has been going on for many years. The mRNA technology has been going on for 20 years. And there's a whole coronavirus task force and people who have dedicated their lives to coronavirus pandemics and pandemics in general that have done a lot of research and development in many, many years, their whole career for these things. So the research and development was already there, and they knew that coronavirus could be a pandemic. So there was a lot of research and development that had already been done for this vaccine. The only thing that was stopping was really the trials, just trying it out in the clinical trials, which is 3 phases for any product that the FDA approves of. And so it is definitely not an experiment. It is definitely something that has gone through the very, very rigorous FDA approval. Our country has a very rigorous FDA approval compared to some other countries. It takes a lot of a critique from the FDA for something to get approved and passed by the FDA. And so I do want to clarify that this is an FDA-approved vaccine. There's a lot of vaccines that other manufacturers have been trying to make in this last year that basically the FDA said, hey, you're not either proving that it's safe or you're not proving that it's effective, and you should just basically stop. So a lot of companies actually had to stop their clinical trials or their development because there were some vaccines that just didn't rise to the top. So the 3 that we have did rise to the top, where it went through every single step of the FDA, very rigorous, very scientific process, and it rose to the top for the FDA to say, yes, this is approved. It's approved for emergency use, so there's no experimental in there. The EUA does not mean experimental. It means emergency use authorization, meaning, hey, we have found that there is such a risk going on right now with this pandemic. There is such a high need for this to come onto market sooner than later that we are going to approve it and basically get it out there because it's going to save lives, and this is what is needed. Just like if you had somebody dying from cancer and you had some medication that would cure that person from cancer, would you want to wait a year for that to be given to that person? Probably not. You would want to get that out there because you know it's safe and effective. It's really at this point, there's just more paperwork that has to go through for the FDA, but it is an approved product. It is emergency use authorization. It is an approved FDA product, and that is basically waiting for a biological license to be applied to it. So that really is where I find that this vaccine has gone through all the rigorous trials, the rigorous steps that the FDA requires for that to be approved. And honestly, the FDA even insisted on a 2-month waiting period after the vaccine was given to individuals in that phase 3 trial. The reason they require that is because they know from a historical pattern of vaccines that any long-term side effects from a vaccine will usually occur in the first 2 months after you got the vaccine. From the historical pattern from vaccines in the past that we've used, we have never ever seen any long-term side effects from vaccines past 2 months. The oral polio vaccine that came onto market, that had some issues and it was seen in the first 2 months. So we do know that there are no long-term side effects to the vaccine. This vaccine has been out for more than 7 months now from the phase 3 clinical trial folks, and there has not been any significant long-term effects or long-term side effects from the vaccine. Again, the FDA is continuously looking at it. The CDC is continuously looking at any adverse effects from the vaccine, and nothing has been shown. So definitely it is not an experiment. The Pfizer has already submitted for their biological license, and most likely it will get completed by the end of this year, probably by September, October. So this vaccine is definitely on its way. The UEA is something it's just the biological license is just an extra step, but they wouldn't have approved this if they weren't confident that the vaccine is very safe and very effective. And really in the real life, billions of people have already gotten the vaccine worldwide. And it's been approved in a lot of countries. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccine have actually been fully approved, fully licensed in other countries. It's just waiting for the U.S. to come through with that license, the paperwork for it. So it's a very safe and effective vaccine, and it's proven in the real world how effective it is. I mean, it's over 90% effective, 94, 96%, depending on the studies you look at. But it has been proven to be very, very effective in real life. They've had a lot of studies where they have seen people in real life, only less than 1% people who have been fully vaccinated have had breakthrough cases. So I always say, if you go to Vegas and you try to put your odds on blackjack or something like that, if you had a 99% chance that you would win every single time, that's pretty huge. That is pretty huge and pretty powerful how good this vaccine is and really how safe it is. So hopefully that answers the experimental question.
I think most definitely.
Yeah. So let me quickly pile on a couple things. So I heard today, and we don't know this exact timeline, but Colonel Westy said full FDA approval sometime later this year. I heard today at a meeting I was in that it could be as early as midsummer for full FDA authorization. And there's an application in to the FDA to reduce the ages down to potentially as young as 6 months.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So those are both imminent and pending, and I think those would be tremendous opportunities.
But on our base now, because rolls right into one of the questions, what's the age on the base now?
12 years.
12 years and up.
12 and up,
Okay.
and you can show up at the clinic if you're under 18. Please bring a guardian. But other than that, 12 and up.
And they need to make an appointment, right?
Well, I'm going to say we are having an event today at the youth center from 3 to 6, and we will be out there at the youth center, and we will be vaccinating anybody that wants to come up. You can go and book an appointment on our scheduler, but if you wanted to show up, you can as well.
And that's a youth center, not
At
the
the
school
youth
age
center.
annex. Yeah,
Correct.
youth center behind Fam Camp. Yep. So, and that's not just for youth center folks. That's targeted at youth, but it could be anybody that just wants to show up and get one. Let me take a quick little tangent on Colonel Westy talked about decades of research into the technology of mRNA. COVID just happens to be the first big wide-scale application of it. So this is actually innovation in the medical world. But mRNA technology is envisioned for a lot of highly targeted, genetic-specific medical treatment. One of them that they're envisioning for is cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. And so one of the goodness that's going to show up after COVID is that we have not one, but 2 examples of taking genetic material and building a vaccine based on it that then we deliver back to the population to make your body kill the bad stuff. And if you think about cancer, a mutated version of a cell that's in your own body, if you can replicate that mRNA and then inject it back in, that is like beyond laser surgical precision cancer treatment. That because of the mRNA vaccines that we have developed and gone through, will now be better prepared to handle those types of medical things in the future. So that is a positive benefit of this pandemic, not inconsequential for those people and those families that are potentially positively impacted by that.
And that's a really good point, because I think a lot of folks don't realize, a lot of folks that just don't have a reason to know, never had a reason to follow it, don't understand that COVID is a form of something that we've been battling for a very long time. We've been researching. So it's great to point that out. Great question just came in, is can I give COVID to someone if I'm fully vaccinated? And I know the answer to that. I've been watching a lot on it, but what's the odds? how does that happen? How does it occur? What's kind of the limitation of that? The CDC is feeling pretty free to say, hey, if you're vaccinated, past your 2 weeks and you're double vaccinated, you're cool. Take off your mask. You can be around unvaccinated people. So for some reason, they seem like you have really good odds of not transmitting it if you're double vaccinated.
Yeah, and this
Do
is
we have
so related to this. She's already used it. This is the breakthrough infections, and if you read breakthrough infections, you'll automatically see the Yankees. So Highlander, there's the tee up for you.
Okay. Well, really, it's a lot of there are breakthrough cases that occur. So again, this vaccine is not 100%. It's not like you could never ever get COVID. This would not ever happen. There is still a possibility that you could get COVID even if you are fully vaccinated. But really, the risk level is very, very low with the breakthrough cases. In a couple of studies, they have shown, actually LA County just did a study. They have shown that it's less than 1% of breakthrough cases that could come through. So it's not zero, and that's really why I am still encouraging that people still wear a mask around others, because there's still a possibility, but the possibility is definitely decreased significantly. But the breakthrough cases that have come through, about 30% of them have been asymptomatic, and there's still some possibility. There's still some possibility of hospitalizations and death that may be unrelated to COVID, but there are still some people that can still get COVID and still possibly transmit to other people around them. The risk is definitely lower, and they're not quite sure about if you're fully vaccinated, you got COVID, how much how infectious you would be, so how much you could really transmit to somebody else. They're feeling that the risk is still very low for that, which is why the CDC did say that you probably don't have to wear the mask around others, because the risk really is very, very low for you to infect others and for you to get COVID in the first place. But it is definitely not zero. It is definitely not a zero, chance. So there's still a very real possibility, even though the risk is very lower. Now, I will have to say, the more people that get vaccinated, the less chance there is, again, because we're reaching population immunity. So really, really more people getting vaccinated will continue to reduce that risk, which again is less than 1%, but it will continue to reduce that risk until really there is not a very good likelihood. Some things like diphtheria or tetanus, other viruses that a lot of people are vaccinated for, a lot of those vaccine effectiveness are only like 98%, 94%, 96%, kind of on par with the coronavirus vaccine. But because a lot of people have been vaccinated with it, we're not really thinking about diphtheria or some other viruses. So pertussis was a big thing. Now they're encouraged. Now adults are encouraged to get pertussis boosters. So a lot of the things, the diseases that we've had, have really been diminished and really not of concern because more people are vaccinated. And that's really where we're trying to get with COVID. The more people that get vaccinated, the less issue it really is.
Yeah. So it's a good question. It highlights, so when I think about the vaccine efficacy, somebody that's vaccinated has an extremely low chance of death due to COVID, assuming they had a normal antibody reaction to it. They have a very low chance of being hospitalized due to COVID, but they only have a 90-something% change from actually getting it. And if you get it, in theory, you could transmit it. Right. Your viral load's going to be lower, and so it's not zero. Right. And that's something that you need to know about what it means to you. I heard somebody use the word, I get my vaccines, I'm immune. And I went, no, wrong word. You're at much less risk of death and much less risk of hospitalization. But if you are around people, even if you're vaccinated, if you are around people that you know are immunocompromised or have high comorbidities, you need to take that into your risk calculation and go forward. And right now, a large part of the population that can't get vaccinated, we all go home to every day. Right. There are our kids. Right.
My 4-year-old. Your 9-year-old.
Exactly. Yes, yep. Exactly. So it's a good question. Thanks for asking it. We're approaching the end of our window. I'm willing to go a little bit long. Chief, while you're figuring out what I'll say 2-ish you got,
I know
I'll do a retraction here or an update. Right. The benefit of this being real time. So I made a mistake earlier. I know it's the first one I've ever made, especially in this job, right?
On live camera.
Yeah, sure. On live camera. No I said the Corvius pool opens tomorrow. That was wrong. It opens today at 1400.
1400, yes, sir.
So hold on. Here's the countdown. Oh, we're not going to wait a whole minute. But no, right now, we could leave this broadcast and go put on our swimsuits and jump in the pool and scare everybody off because they don't need to see that. But anyway.
I am way too white for that, sir. Yes.
Copy that, Chief. So today, Corvius Pool opens as soon as you can get there.
Swim at your own risk.
It is a swim at your own risk.
Yes, sir. And so they don't have lifeguards. We're trying to get them. They also gave us an update that said The hours will be 10 to 1400, and then from 1600 to 2000 daily.
Beautiful.
But as of today, 1400.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Okay,
So
last
I
two.
like this one. And I literally replied back, interesting. So we know some states are doing, hey, I'll give you $5. Hey, I'll give you a lottery. They have a lottery system. If you go to get your vaccine, now they have a lottery system. And if you're the one picked, you get X number of thousands of dollars, $1 million. I think it's $1 million.
Ohio is doing a lottery of
Yeah.
$1 million for
So-
those that are vaccinated.
Yes, sir. So the question was, have we thought through, not in the circles I've been in, not in the meetings I've been in, but I like the idea, have we thought through doing a lottery system for our location, using something such as like an incentive flight or something of that nature? And I know there's a lot of parameters when it comes to incentive flights. But is it worth us sitting down and having a conversation and saying, if we did a lottery system for those who are getting their vaccines, what would we give them and what would that look like?
Yeah, so
For those people that could, but are like,
So I love the idea, right? And if it's within the span of control that I have,
right.
And you or Chief Ward go, hey, I think we got potential here for this group of people that enter the lottery. We randomly draw it, and somebody gets to do a max climb 9Gs and go supersonic in the back of an F-16. I think we're potentially onto something there, Chief. So it's a good question. And,
I'd love it.
Yeah, I like it. So if you can either run with that or have Chief Ward Swanigan run with that, I think there's a potential option there. Full disclosure, we would have a difficult time getting non-military folks, not impossible, but non-military folks in the back of fighter aircraft. But if that person wants to ride on a passenger carrying airplane, that opens up the gamut tremendously. So it's a good put. And I guess if you're listening to us and you're in Ohio, go show somebody your vaccination card to get registered for the $1 million lottery there too. So you could win $1 million and then come fly in the back of an F-16 here.
And sir, if I can say, LA County is actually sponsoring tickets for LA Lakers for their season tickets. So if you do get your vaccine this weekend, Tom Dale Oasis Recreation Center is open this weekend. And I think AV, Department of Health, and there's some other LA County places. You can be entered into a drawing for season tickets for LA Lakers.
Yeah, I've heard some locations are giving free drinks to those that are vaccinated. I've heard some donut shop, I'm not going to name the name because I don't want to endorse them, but even though I eat a few of their product, that are giving free donuts for those of you that show your white card fully filled out. So lots of good stuff.
So we're going to have two more questions because one's a bonus question I just thought of.
I will not count the fact that you can't count. Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, so just to make sure people understand.
Maybe one more with a follow-on, right?
Yes, one more with a follow-on because the last one's going to be completely unrelated. Before people get a really bright idea, because we're sending this out to the world, we're on the internet. Before they get the bright idea of going, I can get free donuts, I can get Laker tickets, I can get this. How many times can you get the vaccine before you shouldn't be getting the vaccine anymore? And I know it's kind of half-heartedly joking, but you know people are going to think that way. I can get a lottery ticket here, I can get this gift here, I can get this gift here. The design of 2 shots with the spacing, why? Lightning round, quick answer though.
Yeah, I mean, you really only need the vaccine for the series, right? The Pfizer's 2, Moderna's 2, the Johnson's 1. You really only need it one time. I mean, you only need that vaccine for that
If
vaccine
you get
series.
more than one, I mean,
if you get more than one, it's really not gonna do anything. It's not gonna harm you in really any way. But it's just encouraged to get the series, and you really don't need it. So I wouldn't recommend it. I guess is my fast answer. I would not recommend getting multiple of the same vaccines, but just complete the series and we'll call it a day.
Yeah. So there are probably better ways to get a free donut than go through that all again. And let's be frank. I think we're likely looking at boosters for COVID to be determined on how frequent they will be. So
here's one I promised I would ask. It's an easy one. It's unrelated to this. We have an Airman Basic coming in here as a crew chief.
Okay.
And he would like to know what are some tips.
And Airman Basic said, "Hey, I'm showing up at Edwards as a
so
crew
we have
chief."
an Airman Basic just got out of tech school, about to come here.
So Airman, welcome to the Air Force, right? I know you very much remember what your civilian life was like before you went to BMT. I kind of struggle with that, as I think Dan Thompson does too.
I certainly do.
Yeah, but welcome to the Air Force. And you hit the lottery, speaking of lotteries, landing here as your first installation. The stuff you are going to see and be a part of here at Edwards is tremendous. So what did you think about as you plan to transit here and start working life on the flight line in the maintenance group? Keep your eyeballs wide open. Look at all the different airplanes. Look at all the different maintenance career fields. There is no other place in the Western world, maybe on the planet, where you can be exposed or talk to your peers, soon-to-be peers, from as many different platforms, weapons, munitions, airlift, bombers, tankers, fighters, legacy, next gen, you name it, right? It's all here. So take huge advantage of that. And then when you look for your next assignment, or if you're given a crossflow opportunity someplace and you really like the maintenance world, you can ask those questions from a basis of experience because you've seen it and you've experienced it. In addition to that, if you decide you want to crossflow or transition to another career field, there are not many we don't have here at Edwards, and it's a really tight group, tightly knit group of shirts, chiefs, commanders, and directors that would be happy to show you the rest of the Air Force there too. So, congratulations on joining by far the superior service in the Department of Defense. Certainly, I'm biased, but the data supports that. And then, in addition to that, congratulations on winning the lottery. I look forward to meeting you when you arrive at Edwards. So, Chief, that's a great one to end on.
I thought so.
That's cool that somebody like that is watching us. That is another benefit of COVID, right? We would not have had this opportunity to meet with all of you from potentially as far away as the other side of the planet if COVID hadn't happened. But this is something that we're sticking to. And if you have a suggestion or an input or a topic or maybe a person that you think you'd like to see in a future broadcast, send it in. The number 707-412-8922. You're welcome to text them in and send them in the whole time, not just when we're on the air. Michelle, have a good weekend. I guess we'll have to tell the Highlander story some other time. It's a good story, right?
Yes. Sure.
Yes, it is a really good story. But she's been our public health emergency officer for a long time, but certainly the entire duration of the pandemic. I kind of drew the analogy of, if you're at a base that has a hurricane, you have a weatherman that's your close wingman. Michelle Westy's been literally our entire bases plural weather person for this pandemic, and she's knocked it out of the park again and again and again. So publicly, Highlander, thank you very much. There are people here that are alive today because of you and the work that the team has done around you, and I very much appreciate that publicly. So thanks.
Thank you.
And Dan, thanks for standing in, stunt double again.
Always,
it's always
sir.
a pleasure hosting with you and working with you. It's Friday. We're short on time, so unless you have one off as a send-off, I'll just cut it from
Same
here.
as always. Be safe, treat one another kindly, and have a great weekend.
Yes.
We've earned it.
Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see you. Actually, so today's the 21st, so let's talk about scheduling here. We have these every Friday, 1300 on duty days. The 28th is a family day. That is not a duty day for folks dressed like Michelle, Dan, and I. So our next broadcast will be the first Friday in June, which, if my math says, is June 4th. So this time slot won't be used on Friday the 28th of May, but it will definitely be used on Friday the 4th of June. So enjoy those 2 weeks. Have a great Memorial Day holiday. Take a moment to remember the reason why it's Memorial Day, and other than that, enjoy your 4-day weekend. Be safe, be well, and so long for now from Takata 2.